Hi, welcome to episode 57 of the Austin Downbeat. I'm Kat, your host. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram at Austin Downbeat as well as at Kat is on the radio, and that's Kat with a K. If you have a band or a musician or an artist that you think should be on the show, or if you yourself are one and you want to come on the show, please direct message me. I love discovering new talent and love seeing who's out there. So do not be shy. Reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Okay, let's do the rundown for this week, which covers June 6th through the 12th. Just a few things that are happening here in Austin. On the 6th of June, you have my pal Scott Collins at the Saxon Pub. On the 7th, you have David Polkingham at New World Deli. Also on the 7th, Ham is doing their corporate battle of the bands at Moody Theater, so that's always fun. Britt Daniel is at Seaboys that same night on the 7th. On the 8th, you have ACL Radio drop-in series at the Long Center, and Tony Camel's playing there, as well as a couple other people. Also on the 8th, Kelly McWee is at the O4 Center, and Clarence James, who's been on the show, is at Antone's. Let's move over to June 9th. Sarah Burton is at Austin Eastsiders. Eric Betancourt and Douglas J. Boyd are going to be playing at Treaty Oak out in the Hill Country. That's a great venue to go grab a nice cold beer or cider and be outside and listen to music. It's lovely. Also on the 9th, you have Madame Radar at Saxon Pub, and as well as my guest today's band, The Big Gun Show, is at the Saxon Pub. Special night for them. They're releasing their album called Honky Rock. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. On the 10th, Ruthie Kraft is at the Armadillo Den. On the 11th, Dave Scher is at Hi Hat Public House. Ray Prim is at Captain Quackenbush's Coffee. And Como Las Movies is at the 13th floor. That brings us to next Monday, which is the 12th. And you have your residencies. You have Monday Night Supper Club at El Mercado South. You have Bob Schneider at Saxon Pub, and you have Brian Wolf over at the Driscoll. That does it for the rundown. Be sure to check your local sources for who's playing where. Follow them, tip them, go see their shows, buy their merch, and support our local musicians. That's why we're all here. My guest today is Gunter Woodson, and he is the main singer, main guy over there at the Big Gun Show. He's been in that band for over 10 years. They've had a residency at Ginny's Little Longhorn for just about that same amount of time. And they have a new album out that they're going to be releasing officially on June 9th, like I said, at the Saxon Pub with Madame Radar. And that album is special and unique. I kind of dig what they're doing. One side is Honky Tonk, and it's side H. And then one side is rock and roll, and that's side R. So instead of an A side and a B side, doing an H side and an R side. I talked to Gunner about all kinds of things. He also has a podcast that he started in 2020 called My Top 5 Records, where he has musicians that you know and love. And it's some of the people that have been on my show as well. And they sit down and they talk about their top five favorite records and why. Kind of a cool concept. So you'll enjoy that conversation. So yeah, be sure to check out Saxon Pub on June 9th, get your tickets and fill that place for them. And without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Gunter Woodson. Welcome to the show, Gunter with the Texas T Woodson. Thanks for coming on.
I'm thrilled to be here, Kat. Thank you for inviting me.
I know it's nice to see you again. It's been a long time. I'm glad to see that you're still doing your thing, and I'm curious to know. I know you have some like a new record. Is it an EP that's coming out soon?
No, it's actually a full-length record. It's called.
Okay.
Let me tell you about it because it's awesome, and I know everybody out there is going to say that kicks out a new record is going to say, "Oh man, it's so good." But I honestly believe this is awesome.
Okay.
So we're a rock and roll band. I'm heavily influenced by Keith Richards, him being my hero.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been playing Ginny's little Longhorn. Do you know Ginny's?
I do.
Up the road. Yeah. So it is, so we've been playing there for like 10 plus years. We have a residency, like first Friday of every month. We play for the happy hour there.
Hmm.
And so I just said, I mean, I grew up around my dad's jukebox that had like Willie and Waylon and George Jones and Billy Joe Shea. It had all those honky tonk songs on it. So I was influenced by that, but I'm a rock and roller, right? So
Hmm.
I started writing rock and honky tonk songs, and then I was like, wait, I've got an idea here. Why don't we make an album, cut an album, press it on vinyl, and
Hmm.
have side H be honky tonk and side R be rock and roll?
That is really, really creative. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing that before. Do you know of anyone that's done something like
Well, I have a podcast too. We can talk about that later, but
that? Mhm.
I believe the art of the album has been lost, and this is one of the things that you can do with a vinyl record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
watch this. So now I'm going to show you the record here. This is what the artwork looks like, right?
Oh, cool. It's
You
a
have to
real
turn it up
split.
this way. See, it's the same way on the back. You can't
Oh,
read this
cool.
stuff. You have to turn it over that way.
Yeah, I
So,
miss those days, where you read the album covers and you opened them up. I mean, that's what I grew up on as a kid. And
oh,
in the 80s and 90s, it was more the 80s, of just like reading all the albums, looking at all the photos. And I agree with you. I think that that has been lost. It's coming back though, but is it coming back the same with the
which
same impression, do you think,
I
or
keep hearing every once in a while, they're outselling CDs and stuff. I mean, when you look at the world today, it's all streams. Everybody's streaming still. And again, like that's what my podcast is about. My podcast is to help people understand the artists that I interview.
Mhm.
And they're typically going to be artists, songwriters, or musicians.
So you're specifically interested in, because your podcast is called My Top Five Records.
Correct.
And so the whole point of your conversations with your guests is to really keep it about the whole record, which kind of weeds out a lot of
Yeah. Like
songs and
I don't,
artists because they have
I
to
don't
have that full record.
agreed. And so they have to pick five, which is extremely hard. Just try to pick five records that you can only listen to for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Hard. I mean, actually, if you look back here, you can't really see them, but they're all back there. Those are my top
Hmm.
five records.
Oh.
But yeah, so it's the whole point of the podcast is to let the artists fans understand them better.
Mm.
Sense.
Hmm.
It's not like I don't want to know when you wrote your first song or when you started playing guitar, that kind of stuff. I want it to be all about that person,
Mm.
and I want people to understand them better. Why did you pick that album? Did you pick it
Mm.
because you heard it in the locker room playing football before a game? Did you smell something? Does it remind you of something? Like one of mine, that the Rolling Stones "Let It Bleed."
Mhm.
One of the songs, let it, what's it called? You Got the Silver was supposed to be my first dance at my wedding, but
Mm.
I kind of spoke for my wife.
What are your top five favorite albums?
Rolling Stones "Let It Bleed," Willie Nelson, Shotgun Willie, Wilco AM, Freddie King Burglar, and Jet Get Born.
Mm. Wow. Um, what has been the most surprising thing that you've learned from a guest so far in talking about it from this angle of entry? Do you have anything that kind of sticks out? And who is it?
Um, I've done a couple of offshoot like kind of episodes. Like one guy was this huge Stones nut, and I am too. So I was like, all right, we're doing a podcast, but we're each going to pick three Stones albums, and then we're going to debate which ones are better. Well, that was pretty easy because we both picked the same Stones albums.
Oh, so it was.
But I mean, what I get the most out of it is when they tell me stories about why they did it. Like when I don't have to talk at all.
Mhm.
I come in prepared. I do the research. I have reviews. I have everything ready. So when there's a lull, I can just jump right in.
Mhm.
But it's really fun, especially when we do it right here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
everybody's so much fun because if you think about it, being a musician, right? You sit here, you have all of this music that you love, and then you have to go pick five. You have to whittle it down to those five. There's going to be a reason why you pick them. To,
Mhm.
to explain that it just makes it so much better. It it makes it phenomenal when you do that.
Yeah. So when I think of you, I always think of sort of your tagline that you have for yourself with Keith Richard and Ray Wiley Hubbard, and that you are sort of the hybrid, like, or that, those two men, kind of hover over the idea of Gunter Woodson. Why those two men? What is it about them that give you
Okay,
so much
I hear you.
inspiration,
Well,
or
but Keith is he's my hero. Him and James Bond, of course, but that's story. Keith is like he exudes everything that I want to be in the sense of what I call rock and roll, which is an attitude and not a style of music, right?
Mhm.
Ray Wiley Hubbard, he's funny. He writes great songs. I'm a songwriter. I don't consider myself a musician at all. I consider that my biggest weakness is being a songwriter because I can't ever concentrate on music and develop my guitar skills.
Mm.
So I mean, those two. I mean, you could also place somebody else in there like Steve Earle or something like that. But I also feel that I don't know if you know Lucero, but I love them and I feel like we sound a lot like them.
Mm. So specifically with Keith Richards and the way that he carries himself, I'm familiar with like the sort of the surface of how Keith is sort of portrayed, like he's gonna live
Right.
forever, and it's like, you know what I mean? But
Outlive the
help me
cockroaches.
go a little bit deeper. I don't really know much about him in the sense of like, what are those qualities specifically that you feel like that you go like, yeah, that's me? Or
So I believe that Keith Richards has kicked out more memorable or unforgettable licks than any other person in this world, for
mm,
starters. Maybe AC/DC can come in second, maybe. But his attitude and his on life is basically, I don't give a fuck what you guys think about me. I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
mhm.
That's what I believe rock and roll is. So
Do you feel like you can, I feel like when you're on stage, it's probably, that's easy, that's something easy to kind of slip into because you're on stage, you're in your persona, you're performing, that makes sense. Can you carry that over into life? Or do you
I do.
carry that over into life, or what's the
Well,
balance there?
here's something, Kat, that you don't know about me. I am a brain cancer survivor.
Mm,
Okay.
I can.
So it was my first operation was 06, 08 was my second one,
Mhm.
and 2 years of chemotherapy. And when I came out of that, I was like, what the hell am I doing all this 9 to 5 stuff? I don't want to do that anymore. That's not what I'm about. I almost died twice.
Yeah.
So I came out of it and I said, I don't really care. And so I basically did what I wanted to. I concentrated on music way more. It was just it was a life changing event, and I hate myself that had to happen to me for me to make that decision.
Mm. It's inspirational for people. I think we all want to embody this like live like you're dying kind of mentality, but you just never know. Right? So it is really good advice just to sort of like go after what you want to do and what lights you up. And does doing music, does that really fill your cup? Is is that the thing for
Love it.
you?
If I could sit down all day long and write music and play music, I mean, I get a different kind of high when I go on stage. Like
Mhm,
I get, I just, I become a different person,
mhm.
and I love it. I mean, I guess I'd be Jekyll as opposed to Hyde. Because I guess Hyde is the guy that's sitting over here writing the songs.
Right. Maybe we need to come up with like, how Beyonce has her Sasha Fierce, her stage person. That's like who she becomes on stage. We need to come up with like, I feel like they're, given the fact that you love Keith Richards and Ray Wiley Hubbard and all those guys that are in that sort of visual aesthetic, there's like a reservoir of options for us to come up with like a good stage name for that person for you.
You go, doppelganger.
Yeah. We'll come up with it. It'll be your own Sasha Fierce.
All right, well, I don't even know what Sasha Fierce is, but I'll go ask my wife. She's
Well,
like,
that's the name that Beyonce calls herself to herself when she's performing. Like that's her alter ego. When she's about to go on stage, she like slips into Sasha Fierce.
okay, you know what? I like that. I think that's a great.
Yes. Yeah. And you kind
So
of slip into like, I feel like whatever name you choose, I feel like it needs to be like three first names or something. Like,
Right off the bat, I'm gonna say Gunzilla, but that's
Tell me a little bit about little Gunner. Like, where did you grow up? What kind of kid were you? When did
I
you
grew up
sort of know that you wanted to do music and that you could even do it well?
I grew up in Houston, Texas. And I grew up around the jukebox that my dad had, so I got to listen to a lot of, but neither of my parents were musical at all. My mom tried to take guitar lessons, but it never really worked out.
Mhm.
Actually, the guy who was teaching it ended up taking her Collins guitar, which was like awesome. And I'm like,
Mm.
would you please get in touch with Skip so I can get that guitar? I grew up and I didn't really get into music until I got to college. And then my dad gave me his Gibson LG3, which
Mhm.
is like a 1961 guitar.
Wow.
And I started playing it and I was terrible. I was when you start playing guitar, you're always bad.
Yeah.
But from the moment I never really had the desire to become some like ripping Eddie Van Halen guitarist. I always wanted to be a songwriter. I don't know why. I just did. I wanted to tell the stories and not be like this other guy,
Hmm.
which is a detriment in itself. It's harder for me to get on stage with people because my guitar's not that great. But I don't know. It I, I just I love getting on stage and I love playing music with people. I really do. I have a so that's
Yeah. And then as far as singing, I mean, because one of the things I talk about with people here is I think, I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but to me, I think it's a big deal when people get up. I had a dream last night, actually. This is very true and real. I had a dream last night that I got up on a really big stage and the moments before, and I was gonna sing, and which is terrifying for me in my real life. And I was like really slow motion in those, like that feeling of getting up there. And I was really ready. And I just remember feeling really like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Like, yeah, of course I can do this. But in real life, it's terrifying. So what's that been like for you? I mean, to me, it's a big deal when someone does that, but you guys make it look so easy. Like it's no big deal. So,
well, I don't know. Maybe it's the brain cancer, maybe it's whatever it is, but I just I really don't care. I just want people to have fun. That's
mm,
actually the tagline for the band now is because everybody always says, I mean, literally after every show, that was so much fun. We had so much, you're so much fun, fun, fun. So I came up with the tagline, bring grandma, she'll have a blast. So, I really want people to have fun. And when I step on stage, it's like, I want to step on, I want to open up for the Rolling Stones. I want to get nervous. I just don't,
mm.
I mean, I'm never playing a big enough venue where I'm going to get, get super anxiety about it.
Hmm. So, do you have some goals looking for? I mean, you have this new album coming out, so we should say that everyone should head down to the Saxon Pub on June 9th. You guys are gonna
Yes.
do like your release party there. Is that fair to say?
That is completely fair to say.
And so now you have this really cool album that's sort of, two a hybrid of two different types. Do you have some goals as far as pushing to the next stage where maybe you are doing some bigger things that make you a little nervous and sweaty?
I hope so. I hope so. 'Cause right now, I'm still, I mean, we're like 3 weeks out right now, I guess. And
Hmm.
so, right now I'm working on the PR side of things. So just trying to get some press because, in my opinion, when you have press, it makes everything more easy to accomplish.
It
Getting, get,
does.
getting reviews, getting that kind of stuff. So if you can say like, and like even in like our little EPK or bio, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
I always like to, pull out little specific things
Hmm.
about what others have said about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
What
front of our website, that's the first thing you see is like a review. So
Yeah, yeah. You do have to do that. And we talk about this a lot on this show too, of like the business side. And so you have this real dichotomy, right? Of like the creative and you're writing and you're pouring your heart and you're creating all of this really wonderful stuff for us to listen to. But then you also have to navigate the business side of that. I think people maybe that aren't in the industry think that, oh, this is Austin, this is the live music capital of the world. It should be easy. Talk a little bit about your experience navigating that side of things and how that's been. And certainly COVID probably, obviously, that was difficult for
Good.
everybody. Coming out of COVID, how is it now for you?
So the drummer in the band, the co-founder of the band with me was this guy named Yates Hagen. And I don't know if you ever met Yates,
I
but
did several times. He was lovely, and his beautiful wife Helen.
yes. So he accidentally fell, hit his head. We still don't know exactly what happened. We just know he fell and hit his head. He ended up passing away, and I kind of went into a rut for like about a year and a half. Luckily, we had recorded the entire Honky Rock album,
Mm,
which is nice because it's again, I think it's a great record. But having to navigate the business side of things, like booking the gigs is a pain in the ass. Doing trying to get all the reviews. Luckily, that we now have a new guitarist named Chris Collins, who his daughter is in PR, and so
oh,
we've got
perfect.
a leg on this. We've got so now we've got new press releases. So like tomorrow, I'm going to be emailing a bunch of people. I just want to get a lot of press right now, and I mean, right now we pretty much. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, and now after Yates passed, I had to get a new drummer named Karen Biller, who I love. She totally likes to play the rock and roll, right? So,
Mm,
but being a full time musician, she couldn't really commit the time to the band. Does that
mhm,
make sense?
mhm,
And so, like, what we now have is a band of people that don't have other people they play with, and it's just us. So now we can work on the stuff. We're able to get together. We're able to do the things that will take us to that next level.
mhm,
So this record, I'm hoping will help, but we'll see. We'll see.
mhm,
Again, I think it's a fantastic record, but I'm not going to keep saying that anymore.
mhm. What I mean, I know the difference between rock and roll and honky tonk, but maybe for how would you articulate that, especially in this town where I feel like, well, and even like in country in general, there's a little, I feel like it's gotten a little bit more homogenized with other genres. So talk
Rap
a
and
little
stuff.
bit about the difference and what you access, I guess, and the differences between those two things for you guys.
So I think rock and roll is that. If you go and listen to this new record, you'll see that I talk about. Yeah, I mean, I sing on the rock and roll side. It's primarily about being a badass, right?
Mhm.
And rock and roll is that kind of I don't really care what you think, which I've already said. But when it comes to the honky tonk, like I define honky tonk different than some people do. I consider it to be, a shuffling beat with talking about tears in your beers, getting too drunk, love lost, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I actually believe that if you look at the Stones from like Let It Bleed to Sticky Fingers, that or to Exile, that there's a lot of like country influence that came from Graham Parsons on Keith, who's the one that kind of put it in there. And
Mhm.
it's the same idea. I mean, that's my favorite part of the Stones is Let It Bleed, Sticky Fingers into Exile.
Mm. What were some of your other favorite bands growing up that you listened a lot to?
I didn't really listen to much music until I got to, high school. It was just kind of what everybody else was listening to. I remember listening to GNR and Triumph. I loved Triumph in high school. But, other than that, AC/DC, of course, because it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of the anthem rock thing that you would listen to before football games and stuff to get you
Yeah.
all pumped up.
Yeah. Were you into like Poison and White Snake and like, well,
Not
how
really.
old are you? How old are you?
52.
You're 52. Okay. So I'm like, 5 years behind you, but I feel like we grew up in like a real, I don't know, it was a real, I haven't seen that kind of thing kind of circle back around yet. Probably, thank
Right.
God.
And I don't know if we want it to,
Is it
but
coming back?
hopefully it will, because then that means my music can take off. Um,
Right.
right. But I will say this though, that, again, I consider myself a songwriter and I don't really consider myself a musician. And so what I when I first started writing songs, I was like, oh, it's all about, it's just all about, the groove and the way it sounds. And then I started talking to some other women and they were like, oh, I just love the lyrics. And then I finally asked, started asking, he said, are the lyrics more important than the song? They're like, oh, that's all we listen to is the lyrics. And so I was like, oh, I need to change my view of how I write songs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I guess you can say the same thing. You're looking at those. You need to understand. The vocal should always be out front. You should be able to understand everything everybody says.
Yeah. I do appreciate a front vocal. I love, I don't listen to a ton of country, but I have gone through those stages in my life where I kind of liked country, and it was really because I want the story and I want, I want to take me on a little ride, make it all make sense, give me some resolution at the end, you know?
Send you. I'm gonna send you when we get done. I might have already sent it to you, but our new record so that you can listen to it. And I want
Yeah.
you to tell me later what you think about it and what if there's a specific song you want to know what I'm thinking. But I believe that songs are open to interpretation. I
Yeah.
really and should be. I love to write songs being gender agnostic and then having one thing like so I wrote this song called Swagger, and it's about a person getting their swagger back, right? So that's the idea of the song. But I wrote it to be, I never said he or she. It's all about, you could be a guy or a girl, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think in the video, it's about her getting it back.
It is.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose. But I
You know
wanted
that.
to wait a second. And if if and I like the way that you just noticed that. So I did my job there.
Yeah. What is the writing process like for you? As I know for me, like, things strike me at the most odd times in the shower, right before, like when I just get comfortable in bed, I keep a pad of paper and a pen next to me because I know I'm going to think of something really cool in my head to jot it down. When I'm driving, thank God for Siri. I can like talk to
Support
notes.
this. Yeah.
I know. Um, but when do you sort of find yourself getting inspired, and how deep do you go? Do you have full permission to just drop down as deep and vulnerable and raw as you can, or where do you like kind of find yourself in the writing process?
Um, so I think most of my songs are about love, loss, maybe getting drunk and being a badass. Those are the typical topics you're gonna find in my songs. I think, just looking at it. But where do I get the inspiration? Um, I keep I have a thing of notes on my iPhone, and I just like whenever I'm reading a book, I just stop and type it on. So I like song titles, in the sense that because I believe that if you want somebody to listen to your track, you better have a good song title. They're going to want what is behind the barn mean, or what is where trouble wants to go mean. What I want to listen to that. That's just kind of yet another thing to get them to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of times I like to write from song titles. So whenever I do go write with somebody else, I'm always like, here, I got a list of titles here. What do you guys like? So I had one called, I wrote one with my friend Greg Gills. It's called The Liver and the Heart. And it's about this guy and this girl that are in love, but she's really in love with him. And so it's kind of bothering him. And so he starts drinking more. And so that's the whole deal. It's the liver and the heart. That's what's kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great song. Again, I'm going to tell you that I think that everything's great, but I honestly do think it's really good.
Well, I think that's important. I think it's important for you to believe in yourself and to love what you're doing and think, I mean, that comes up a lot here too, of just like you really do have to like what you're doing. I mean, you can apply that in anything. For me doing this show, I genuinely enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point in doing anything if you're not really having fun, you know?
If it stops being fun, Cat, stop doing it. That's
Stop
what I
doing
stop
it.
doing it. It stops being fun. I
Yeah.
told everybody in the band, if it stops being fun, then and I make sure that like we practice in here. Like this is only a 10 by 20 space, but the drums set up like right here, and then we're all sitting over there. And this is, I mean, it's a small space, but it's easy to practice here. And
Yeah.
so it makes it easy. This is like a multi-purpose place that I have.
Yeah. Is that at your house or is that
Yeah.
it's in your backyard? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, your little he shed, like a she shed,
That's
but
what it is.
oh, the parties that must go on in there.
Yeah, there's some good times going in this place. I called the doghouse one time. My friend Roberto Espinosa, during COVID, he goes, "Hey, listen, you want to go? You want to have a yard beer?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Just come over to my house. Come around back. I'm out in the doghouse." And he got here and he's like, "What? What happened? What happened? Did you get in a fight with your wife?" And I was like, "No, I just called this a doghouse because I get sent out here a lot.
You're like, happily send me out there.
I
Uh,
got everything to do out there."
yeah. All right. So you have a full length album coming out. you're
Yep.
gonna hopefully play a bunch of shows following that big release at Saxon Pub, right?
I'm gonna start playing outside of town, in Taylor and Spicewood. We're gonna start
Okay.
playing a little bit more. We primarily concentrated on just inner Austin shows, but
Mhm.
it's time for us to branch out and do this stuff. I mean, we got this new record. There's no reason why we shouldn't do it.
Yeah, and especially because you have that honky tonk side. I feel like, I mean, I'm a city girl, so 10 years in Texas, and I've now kind of got to see enough places. But I mean, this is a great place to play that type of music and get people to dance. And, I feel like that's what you want. If I'm you standing on stage, I feel like you want to see people two stepping and dancing and spinning around and having a great time.
That's what I want. Is
Yeah.
people. That's
You're
that.
like the conductor for the party.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will take all day long.
And my point being is that there are so many great venues around this area, and you could do like a little mini tour.
You're correct. I mean, Houston's. I mean, no offense, Houston. I grew up there. Uh, it's not a good music scene. Dallas is okay, but there's not a lot of. Austin is great, but the musicians don't get paid anything,
I
and
know.
so it's about how many people you can bring into the club is what makes you money. So.
I know. I'd love to change that. I'd really love to.
Well, then you can talk to the governor and the mayor and stop raising real estate prices so much, because all the musicians are forced to live way outside of town now.
I know. I know. It's really crazy. I just was talking to my last episode, Courtney Santana, and we were talking about kind of just problem solving that out loud on our episode of just like, I want to get a think tank of people in a room and be like, okay, what what classifies and constitutes in Austin in this, well, whatever all the counties and however many counties we want to include, but what constitutes being a working musician? Define that.
Yeah.
What does that person need to survive, and not only survive, but thrive and grow? And what kind of resources do we have available? There are 130 nonprofits in Austin.
Yeah.
130 nonprofits, and a lot of them cater specifically to musicians. And so one of the things that Courtney Santana is doing is she's working on building a nonprofit that aggregates all the support and resources into one spot for
Oh, that's
people.
cool.
Yes,
I
and this is what I've been thinking of doing. And then I end up talking to her and I'm like, this is what I wanted to create.
I had this idea, and I called it, this is like 10, 15 years ago, this idea called musica. And it was like this very Latin inspired place. You walk in, it's a cobblestone up here, and then there's a right in the front, there's like a fountain that's going up, and in the back there's an acoustic guitar. So on the side you have two-story buildings. One of them is just basically all rehearsal space, right? On this side, there's local Austin, like a taqueria, a music shop, a coffee bar, and a live music venue.
Mm,
All local Austin. And then on top would be like music management stuff.
mm-hmm. Like office building.
Yeah. So you'd have like management or whatever's up there, anything music, but it has to be that was my little brainchild, but
Yeah, but I think that there are ways to do that, because I every now and again I hear of another friend that's a musician or a band that's moving out of town so they can afford, you
yeah,
know, and it just makes more sense. And so I feel really, even though I'm not from here, I just feel really protective. Like, this cannot be this hard. You know what I mean? Like,
it,
we need
it,
to we need to put a few moms in charge of running the
uh,
city. Like,
no,
right?
I hear you, but the thing is though, is that what happens is a town gets super cool. And Austin is one of those towns. It became cool, the live music capital of the world. There's a river right down there. There's so much stuff you can do in this town. It's like, and then all of a sudden, all the startup, the Silicon Valley people came in here, right? And so now all these companies are moving here. Everybody wants to move here, and that's what's causing the growth. You
Yeah,
know, you got California people coming here and buying up all this land because they got more money they know what to do with,
yeah.
and that's the issue. You become cool, you become more expensive. That's
Mhm.
what I think.
Yeah, you get cool and you expose your coolness, and then people want a part of that, and then they ruin it for you.
They come here and they go, "How long have you been here?" And I'm like, 33 years, I think. So it's like, I moved here for college and I never left. Why would I leave?
Yeah. It's a cool town. I'm still hopeful though that we can solve it. I'm still feel like I don't know.
But you think, okay, how can you solve the real estate issue? You could have somebody like Gary Keller, I think that's his name, come in there and maybe buy like some housing for people, but that's going to be like an apartment kind of complex, or maybe it's just that would be amazing. I would love it if there was a place, maybe it's out in Spicewood, or maybe it's in Driftwood, maybe it's someplace near. It is basically a community, based on music people.
I love the idea of communes. I love commune. Like I would sign me up to live in a commune. I would love that. But I think more because I want like foundational change. I think if we can define what like you're a full-time musician, right? You don't have a day job, or do you
Right
do?
now, no, I don't.
Okay. So like if there were a way to create, like if you wanted to buy a house, or if you could show like that you're spending $3,500 a month on rent, you can buy a house for with a $2,000 month payment, that just makes more sense, or whatever. I feel like there has to be a service available where someone like you can go like, hey, I qualify for everything that we've defined through this process, and there's legislation, and there's an avenue for you to take where you can buy a home in Austin, not Lockhart and Buda and Bastrop and all that. Like you actually can buy a home in Hyde Park, you know? I
I
I
I
think it's
wish
possible.
that would happen. I
Yeah.
really do. I
Yeah.
I I will support it with everything I can, because
Yeah.
I mean, there are incredible nonprofits here. I know that you've had Sims, the CEO of Sims, on here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Executive
that
director.
I mean, there is just like those are what I believe makes Austin Austin.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go to other places, they don't have all that infrastructure for musicians.
Yeah.
It's because I mean, you go to Nashville, no, LA, no, New York, no. Atlanta, no. No. I mean, Austin's a very unique town in that sense.
Yeah, that's why I'm hopeful, because I do feel like there's enough of an effort being made here. I think it just needs to get carried further. And I actually don't think it would be that difficult. I really don't. Like there are mortgage programs for down payment assistance for people that, I mean, you can get a home in the median price for no money down. Down payment assistance, like
Right.
no
You're in
money.
charge of that.
I
That's your job now. That's
I
your job.
know that to be
No,
true. My
no
friend
more
does
vodcasts.
that. So I feel super protective, and I just want to make sure, because any city that boasts about, well, we're the whatever capital of the world, well, you better back it up.
Yep.
Better
I,
back it up.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir, but
Right.
yeah. What else do you have going on? What else is going really well for you right now in life? Maybe
Uh,
music, maybe not.
Music's great. I'm very inspired right now. I've been writing new songs, and the thing is, now that I have a band and not hired musicians, it's easier for us to get that on practice and work on that new stuff. Because I know, I mean, it took me like over 2 years to get this last record out, mainly
Mm,
because of COVID and all the other stuff. And pressing on vinyl takes like 10 months.
yes.
It's nuts.
Mhm.
But that I'm very happy with. I'm also very happy with my podcast. I love it. I get to meet new people. I get all this new music that I get to listen to. I
Mm.
mean, my time is so limited. I've got this band, I've got my podcast, I've got a wife. I don't have any kids, luckily. I mean, well, I guess say what you want. I don't have any kids.
Hey, if you
Uh,
don't want them and you don't have them, then that's a good situation.
After I got done with the brain surgery stuff, I was just like, sorry, I'm too selfish. I have got way too many things that I want to accomplish in life. But yeah, those two things pretty much drive me and make me happy. So
Mm. What are some challenges that you have right now? Like I also think it's important to kind of talk about what's hard. Like what do you feel like is kind of hard?
making money with music is extremely difficult. Making money with anything artistic is going to be hard.
Hmm.
I've recently started painting,
Oh,
and I'm really getting into, and I was like, I want to paint. My wife is a really good painter, and so she was like, here, I'll show you. So, I painted something, and then now I'm wanting to paint more. I'm just trying to find time to do it.
yeah. Are you working with acrylics or oils, abstract? What kind of
Really.
style? Acrylic?
Acrylic and just taking a picture, and then I'm taking a picture that I like. The first thing I did was like this wave, and so I'm still working on it. It's going to take forever to finish this thing
Yeah.
because you put some colors here, and then you mix the color. It's just it's a cool form of expression because you get to do whatever you want. I want to start drawing some pictures of like Willie and Keith and painting those kind of things as well. I just again I need more time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Are you an organized person or I mean your the backdrop behind you looks very organized. It looks like a lot of stuff, but it looks like everything that you have means something to you. Are you an organized person?
I like to think so. I know
How
right
does
here,
your wife feel about this?
I'm sloppy as all get out, but
What?
all that is just like all music books right there. And
That's
so, and like if you look around, you can see that I've got stuff up there. It's like all organized with that.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
look how nicely your little cords are. Are those cords just
I only have so much space in here.
like IKEA? You got to get real like smart with
Well,
your
I've got a
space.
lot of IKEA stuff in here. Something up there. What is that? Something's on top of that. I don't even know what it is. I guess I can use storage on top of the soundproofing.
I was gonna say, are those like acoustic panels?
Yes, there. I built them myself. So
Very,
uh,
very cool.
it gets loud
Awesome.
like this.
I bet. I bet. Do your neighbors, do you live in a spot where like you can just rehearse whenever you want or
For the most part, I mean, I don't like to go past like 9:30 on the week during the week because I do have a neighbor that's like probably like 20 meters from me over here, but they just moved in. The other people,
you're like, welcome to the neighborhood?
yeah. Well, they like it too, I'm just trying not to piss them off because if I do, then we bad relationships. But I live up in Allendale, and during like when we when we built this place, my wife is in construction, and so we got a prefab place from Kangaroos,
Mhm.
and we just said this is what we want. We want the transomed roof with the transomed windows, and want windows here and door here, and so but just build it to the studs. And so she had her guys come in and put the electricity in, the flooring in, all the insulation, which was soundproof insulation.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's not super loud outside.
Oh, that's cool. That's really perfect.
No, yeah, it works great. And the only thing that I don't know if you can hear the mini split, but it's starting to make noises.
Cannot. I
Good,
cannot.
good.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, let's remind everybody that you are going to be at the Saxon Pub on June 9th with your album release. Are you going to have obviously copies of the vinyl for people to buy? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, great.
and
And
all
then,
that stuff. We've got that. If you want to catch us on the internet, it's the Big Gun Show. It's always the Big Gun Show. TheBigGunShow.com. If on all the socials, it's TheBigGunShowBand.com. Um,
yes.
so we've got Instagram, YouTube. Well, we did a stand up for like a year or two of just like recording a bunch of like I had a friend that would come out and record the shows, and then he would go home and like edit them down a little bit, and then so we would have for like 3 months we had like a show coming out every week. I mean, a song
Yeah.
every week. So it was good to like help book bands and stuff like that, for band bookings because they can actually see what you sound like on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. They need those
Now
metrics.
we sound a lot different because we've morphed over the last 4 years.
Excellent. And then your podcast is called My Top Five Records. And where can people find that on Apple Music?
Anywhere.
Anywhere? Yeah.
I listen to it on Spotify and Apple or the podcast on Apple, whatever that
Hmm.
is.
Yeah,
Podcast.
the little thing.
But yeah, you can find that anywhere. And again, basically what it's about is just understanding your musical heroes better.
Yeah, yeah, you can tell a lot about somebody by what they listen to and also what they don't like. Like I have a short list of things like of musicians I won't listen to. Like I'll just turn it every time because I can't handle it.
I'll say it. You too. That's one of the bands that I really don't care for.
Yeah. Oh,
Jo-
you
Joni
too.
Mitchell.
Yeah.
Joni Mitchell's been picked twice in my podcast, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm glad you picked him. I listened to the record. I did my research. Now I need you to explain to me why this should be in my top 5 records.
I love Joni Mitchell.
Well, then good for you. But I, and I believe it or not, I'm the same way with Bob Dylan, and I'm a songwriter.
I love Bob Dylan.
I don't know, man. I thought we were gonna get along, Kat.
I get it. I get it. Like I get it. I will tell you one of I didn't come prepared with my top 5 records, but I will tell you two
Let's
that
hear
come
him.
off straight off the top of my head. Number one is The Queen is Dead by the Smiths.
Okay.
Every
Never
song. What?
would never pick that.
Okay. Because it means so much to me. That record,
You should pick it though. That's
yeah.
exactly why you should pick it.
Not only is every song so awesome, and I know every word of every beat of everything, but it means so much to me. And then number two, and I've just said it from the night that I laid down on the floor in my living room and listened to this album from start to finish, I was like, this has never happened before, like a whole album. And it's
All right,
radio.
hold on. Give me a hint. Give me a hint.
Well, I don't really know what to hint
Is
you.
it a guy or girl singer?
The singer is a guy.
And about what year?
Oh, this is like early 90s that I discovered. Like, yeah, well, mid 90s.
Pearl Jam?
No.
Well, then I'm gonna quit guessing.
Radiohead, The Bends.
Oh, that's my favorite Radiohead album for sure.
The whole thing is like so good.
I know, but you get these, you get bands, and this should be accepted. But when you get to a certain point in your musical abilities and songwriting abilities, you're gonna want to experiment. You're gonna want to do things different, and they did that like in a big way.
Yeah.
Wilco's done that in a big way as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I also love Grace by Jeff Buckley. That
It's been picked once.
so good. Did you hear his double album that they released posthumously? My Sweetheart the Drunk. Did you ever listen to that album?
I don't think I have.
You should. There's a song called Morning Theft that is one of my all-time favorite songs. But yeah, he died halfway through making that album, and then they finished it and released it. So good, so good.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool podcast, and I mean I've had really cool guests. Rosie Flores. I just had Slade Cleaves on. Jesse Dayton, Chuck Prophet was on it. Whipper Layton from Double Trouble, Kelly McWee, AJ Lee, Paula Nelson. I've had a bunch of really cool guests.
Yeah, and we've had some of the same guests too. I was looking at
Oh
who's
yeah,
on. Yeah,
definitely. I've
yeah.
had Miles Suniga, I've had Paige, and
Jamie Harris.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Go check it out. It's fun. It's not pretentious. There's no ads on it yet. I would love it if you Venmoed me or donate to my Patreon. I'd love to make some money off this, but I just
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. All right. So be sure you listen to him. Check it out.
Promise I will. I will get back with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it. Thanks, Gunnar, for stopping by. It's nice to get to spend some time with you. I haven't seen you in years.
It's my pleasure, Kat.
You look great. I like
Back
the bold glasses. I love a bold frame.
Getting old sucks. I can't see without them anymore.
Dude. I mean, like I have mine here. I cannot see. I'm always like,
I actually carry a monocle around with me, so I don't have to wear glasses all the time.
that's what I need when I'm like cleaning up my eyebrows. And I just was telling my daughter, I was like, I have to wear my readers to see, like, just to see, but I can't get in there. I need a monocle. You just solved my biggest life problem. Gunnar, thank you.
Welcome. I'm happy to help.
I'll call you whenever I have a problem like that I just can't seem to solve.
Figure out how to see better. All right. Well, cool. Hey, Kat, thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thank you.
Fun.
I'm the one saying goodbye. This isn't you're like,
Uh,
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no, no. Thank you very much for stopping by. It's good to see you. Everybody go to the Saxon Pub on June 9th. Get a ticket so that you can be sure to get in. That place packs in pretty quickly.
On the radio stations, tell them the Big Gun Show's your favorite band.
Yeah, call the radio
Yeah.
station, the Big Gun Show. All right, that does it for another episode of the Austin Downbeat. I almost said the Big Gun Show. And we will see you next time. Thanks, Gunner.
Peace.
Bye.